people say there's a lot of Islamophobia in these Western countries, but these countries keep surprising these people. But there's no appreciation and nobody cares. So 3 months ago, there were elections in Australia, and one lady by the name of Fatima Payman, she was elected in Western Australia. Western Australia is a far-flung, so it's not really like a big Melbourne, Sydney kind of state, but fair enough, it's still Australia anyway. So a lot of generally, even people in Melbourne, Sydney also think that maybe Western Australia is not, it's a little bit backward. There might be a bit more racism, etc. But anyway, so
that's an even bigger deal then, if that's beautiful.
Yeah, so this lady, she's only 27 years old. I think she's the second youngest.
Wow.
Senator to have ever become a senator in Australia, and she moved to Australia when she was 6 years old as a refugee. Her father came to Australia on a boat, obviously post 2001 invasion of Afghanistan, and look how far she's come. And I was talking to this Pakistani journalist a while ago, and I was telling him, oh, look, I keep forgetting your mayor's name. What's his name?
Sadiq Khan.
Sadiq Khan. So I said, look at this Sadiq Khan, and look at there are so many other people. And I was showing him at that time that there are a lot of immigrants or in children of immigrants. There could be that they're running for UK English prime ministership. And it was like, oh no, these guys they just handpick those who look like them, who are very liberal, as if they would ever get a true Muslim. And then and obviously 3 weeks later this happened, and I was like, look, she looks like a Muslim girl. She wears a hijab.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard back from him. Every prediction this guy makes actually turns out to be wrong, and he still doesn't believe in it. He still thinks that there's some propaganda or something anyway. So we're not discussing him. But she actually made a very interesting speech a couple of days ago in the Senate after in the first Senate. So this is her first address. So I wanted to play that, and I wanted your thoughts on that.
Let alone 10 years ago, would this Parliament accept a woman choosing a hijab to be elected? But for those who choose to advise me about what I should wear or judge my competency based on my external experience, know that the hijab is my choice. I want young girls who decide to wear the hijab to do it with pride and to do it with the knowledge that they have the right to wear it.
I mean, I don't disagree with it. I actually think that these kind of people, like Ilhan Umar's and Linda Sarsour's and these kind of people, obviously they have a right to wear hijab. I mean, I've always supported it. People should have governments should stay out of people's clothing business within reason, of course. I mean, that's where it gets murky. Like, I mean, clothing business, why can't I turn up in Senate in my budgie smugglers? And Jordan Peterson made an argument that the reason why we all wear suits is because the main idea behind that was there's a uniform, like everyone's equal, although it digressed and some people can wear
fancy schmancy suits,
Tom Ford suits, or just from what is the cheap ones here, Primark suit or something, so it's like, okay, but at least they all look the same, and that was a dressing code, and that's how dress codes evolved. But why make an exception for a hijab or something? I guess it doesn't really hurt anyone as much. Within reason, I think this is why I say. But my point is, these people actually are damaging Islam more because, again, she's come from Labour Party on Labour Party's ticket, which is our which is like our Labour. Labour is left-wing parliament, political party, and they also ally with the Greens, and Greens are very far left, almost woke. And first first Muslim senator was Marine Faruqi, who is actually, she's another one of the lipstick Pakistani. She actually, because these political parties that are giving these guys opportunities to come forward are very woke, almost woke, and they're left leaning. So when these women, Marine Faruqi probably never had that problem. She was always like, yeah, I'm pro LGBTQ, etc. But when these girls, people like this hijab wearing Muslims, when they're pushed in the corner and they are forced or asked to give an opinion on LGBTQ relationships, for example, then they would have to say yes, and that's the time when all these Muslims, this is being celebrated everywhere in Pakistan. Oh, yay! Yeah, we're so proud to be a Muslim. Blah blah blah. One day she'll be asked to give a statement on LGBTQ, and she would say, "Yes, everyone has a right to love," and then watch this. And people would be like, "Screw this!" Kind of like what happened with Mufti Yasir Wahidi. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna just get, as soon as it gets to that point, you're in hot water, right? Because the rest of mainstream Islam, the like Islamic theological viewpoint, you're abandoning it to say those things. Yet you have to say those things because, as you said, the very party that's enabled you to get this far very much like hold those views like sacred. So that goes back to that unholy alliance that you're talking about. But again, it's just these days the hijab is a choice thing. I feel like it needs to be examined when women say that as well, because when women are saying that hijab is a choice, is that just coming from the personal, immediate familial experience that you've had and the way that society has treated you around hijab and the fact that you think you've had the final say in it and therefore it's your choice, versus what Islam actually says? I mean, according to most people in Islam, hijab is fard, which is mandatory, as opposed to it being a choice. So when something is already obligated on you as a good believing Muslim woman, for you to turn around and say it's my choice, you're clearly alluding to a familial situation, because going straight by the book, you're supposed to wear it. And then when like in her speech, obviously she's saying the right thing from where she's coming from. She has to. But even when they constantly use the term girl, like if a girl wants to wear it, I feel like we should push that now and say, no, if a woman wants to wear it, because this is a choice that should be made freely and fairly post 18 or whatever the age of, consent and adulthood is in whichever respective country you come from. But it's not a thing on girls, because that immediately takes away the element of choice. So stop saying if girls want to wear it, because that's not a free and fair choice. If a woman wants to wear it, by all means, go ahead. But I think this whole choice thing, over and over again, saying it's a choice, I mean, that's literally giving the middle finger to all those women in Iran in the White Wednesday protests who are burning hijabs, girls that are getting killed in their sleep, getting their heads bashed in because they haven't worn hijab, or they've decided to take it off, or they've been brave enough to take it off, or they're living a double life where they have to wear it just as they come home. But yeah, it's very problematic as well, because it's just not a choice in Islam, and we need to start acknowledging that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Then, sorry, say women, not girls, because girls don't actually have a choice. I mean, boys and girls, they actually don't have a choice, which God they believe in, which customs they believe in, etc. And since we live in constitutional democracies, so therefore that is the benchmark. Yes, it does allow you to practice and preach your religion, whatever, but when it gets to kids, it becomes a bit different, because the normal argument is, they go, well, okay, well, if you're telling me that I shouldn't follow my religious framework and prepare my kid that way, then who gives the right to the state to prepare my child according to their framework through schools and like modern secular principles or whatever? Well, you're free to go, you're free to leave the country. Whichever system we live in, we have to admit that, okay, we're going to have to follow that system to some extent. Okay, so if it's a theocracy, well, then go and live in a theocracy. If it's a democracy, liberal democracy, then you have to, liberal democracy, its values and principles will trump over everything. That's the reason why. But yeah, that's the reason why we don't allow circumcision, and definitely don't allow female circumcision now. Probably the more appropriate word is genital mutilation. Yeah, I think, and I've said it before so many times that this is factually an incorrect statement that hijab is my choice. There are only 3 reasons that a woman would wear a hijab, or even a girl. Number 1, pressure from the society that, oh, look, she's a hoe. Number 2, pressure from the family, like, oh, honey, daughter, we want you to carry on the custom, be a pious, good girl, whatever. So, okay, Dad, I'll put it on. And number 3 is, let's just say the first 2 pressures don't exist. You live in a liberal democracy. There's no pressure from the society. Your parents are chilled. But number 3, you still wear it. Now that's pressure from your theology. Your God has put this in your mind that if you wear it, then you're a hoe. You're not a pious woman. You're not a good woman. So that's why, look, I better put it on. Choice can only be used.
Go on.
Choice can only be used if you can actually let it go. In Islamic theology, you actually can't let it go. So it's not a choice.
Yeah, exactly. And also the fact that even all of the 2 situations you described, obviously that's undue influence on both of them, right? And it's not a choice. And if some perfect world, it's a choice where you can take it off and put it on as if the same way you'd like change a cap or change clothes and nobody would bat an eyelid, then wow, you must be like the exception to the rule, because that's not the case in most situations. If it is, then that is only purely like fully fledged choice, even though like if you're at a point of maturity where you're able to understand that. But again, once as a Muslim woman or girl, if you're choosing to do it much younger, like when I did it when I was 9, I only knew that it was a command from God. I had never been given the information provision of knowing where the story originated, who mandated it, what, like Umar trying to put pressure on Muhammad over and over again to try and get it as part of the like standard doctrine, and Muhammad putting off a few times, then the Sauda incident promoting like, you know, Muhammad to finally agree and accept. I mean, if you're going to tell girls to wear hijab, tell them the full story. Tell them what happened and let them make their mind up themselves, because it's a big difference thinking, oh, this is a command from God, which I need to do to be a good Muslim and get into heaven, which is exactly what I wanted to do, which is why I wore it, which is why I said I was surprised that all the other Muslim women around me weren't wearing it, including my own family, because I was like, what, are you guys not scared of not getting to heaven? But if I knew the story behind it, maybe even my 9-year-old mind would have just interpreted that story differently, and I would view it differently. The way I view it now, maybe not, but it just comes from such a place of like misogyny, and it is literally the shackles of women in Islam. Like, it breaks my heart seeing women completely veiled from head to toe in black with gloves on, with only their eyes. Some of them even put a net in front of that. When I lived in Saudi, on the beaches of like a private beach resort anyway, it's just for like families of one company, and even within that, the sons and the men are having fun, the little girls at least are allowed to play, but the woman is just sitting there in full black, like barely dipping her toes in, and you just think that she just thinks that's because God told her to.
Yeah. That's these are the hadiths that Nuria was referring to, and obviously I showed you the Quranic verse as well while she was talking. Umar was actually bragging about it. There's a Sahih Muslim 2170 6240. Umar brags about it that, oh Allah, I asked Allah Muhammad to get this commandment from Allah to veil women, and Allah granted that. And the actual story is that Umar saw one
Muhammad's
of
wife,
Muhammad's
Sauda,
wives
answering a call of nature, in the middle of the night, and he recognized that it was her.
Oh, wife of Muhammad, I know you. I recognize you. And then he comes to Muhammad and he says, hey, and then Muhammad says, Allah has listened to Umar and mandated hijab. So, it was so easy. It's pathetic.
So much of a bone to pick with Umar as well. What he's done to Muslim women for so long.
Yeah.
Just erase them from society bit by bit.
If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone.